What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to a model airplane review. I'm your host, Ray. Today I'll be reviewing the Gemini 200 Delta Airlines Boeing 757-200, item number G2DAL1307, released in July of 2024. In this video, I'll do an in-depth review of the model. Afterwards, I will give my opinion on the model and I will decide whether or not I recommend it to other collectors. The box for this model is a large cardboard box measuring 22.5 centimeters long, 8.5 centimeters wide, and 23 centimeters tall. I will show you around the box now. This is the front. Here's the bottom. Right side. Top. Left side. And the back side. This box features a flap where you can open it to see the model inside of its protective packaging. Underneath this flap is information about the Boeing 757 family. Included in the box is the model fully assembled, painted, and ready to display. Also included are parts for extended and retracted landing gear, as well as a metal display stand. From the sounds of it, looks like today we will be joined by an army of cicadas in my backyard who would like to help me narrate today's review, so please welcome them. I'll give you a quick 360 of the model. For the majority of today's review, I will keep the model with its landing gear extended, but I will show what the retracted landing gear parts look like later. The dimensions for this model are as follows: 23.5 centimeters for the fuselage length, 18.5 centimeters for the wingspan, and 6.4 centimeters tall. These dimensions are accurate to 1 to 200 scale. This model is made primarily out of die-cast metal with some plastic components. The wheels on the extended landing gear are made out of rubber. Let's start with the review with the fuselage. The nose profile on the mold for this model is not perfect. I think the radome here should be a little bit less pointy, maybe a bit more blunt. The shape isn't perfect, but it is by no means terrible, so the nose shape is decent. It's not great, not terrible. Let's move down the fuselage. There is a lot of detail on the fuselage in the form of printed detail for logos, placards, and all that fun stuff, all of which looks pretty good, especially on these forward doors on the left side of the fuselage. Those look really nice. I'm not used to seeing such a high level of detail on a model, so Gemini has definitely improved on their printed detail. With regards to the quality of paint application and printed detail, all of it looks pretty good so far, which is nice to see. Okay, we have a small imperfection in the passenger window right here. It's no biggie though. There's our tail registration and our beautiful American flag, and here is the rear section of the fuselage. Here's the vertical stabilizer. Overall, it's decent, but it could use some work. I do see some silver paint chipping on the forward end of the vertical stabilizer here, and also the top end of the vertical stabilizer is at a bit of an angle. You can also see a bit of texturing in the paint right at the tip of the vertical stabilizer right here at the very top. There is molded detail on this with the recessed panel lines for the rudder. This looks pretty good. It's not filled in with paint or anything, so that's nice to see. I do see some texturing in the silver paint on the leading edge though, so that's not really that good. The colors and the application of them overall is pretty good though. The red here looks nice, and so does the blue. As I show you the right side of the aircraft, you can definitely see what I was talking about with regards to the top of the vertical stabilizer being at an angle. It's definitely angled downwards when it should be parallel to the ground, so that really isn't too good to see. But the right side of the fuselage itself, it looks pretty good. No complaints about it. I don't see any printing imperfections that are worthy of mentioning, or just any imperfections at all. Overall, pretty solid job so far. The wings on this model feature excellent detailing. There's clearly defined recessed panel lines for the control surfaces here on the rear section of the wing. That looks pretty good. None of it is filled in with paint here on the left side. The leading edge slats also have detail, which looks really nice. Painted detail comes in the form of course, the paint application and the silver paint on the leading edge. This looks pretty nice. I do see a small bump right here, nothing major though. Here is the right wing. The right wing has a bit more paint filling in those control surfaces, but it is nowhere near to the point where you can't see them, so that is very much acceptable in my opinion. Printed detail looks pretty good. There isn't too much going on in terms of printed detail on the wing. I do see that the printed detail for this line does kind of get a little bit thin right here, but it's not chipped or it's not smeared, so it's not really a huge infraction. The undersides of the wings do not feature any printed detail, but they don't lack in detail either. Here, the control surfaces on the bottom side of the right wing are clearly defined. However, on the left side, I do see that the aileron and some of the ailerons, both the low speed and high speed ailerons, are kind of filled in. Well, actually, no. It's just they got a bit better coverage right here, but these details aren't filled in, so disregard what I have just said. The horizontal stabilizers look pretty decent. I do see some staining on them, though. This is how the model arrived, so I guess it got a bit of dust on it. Okay, that might not be a stain. Sorry about that quick interruption, but... Oh, yep, that's just a piece of trash. So yeah, a lot of trash got into these horizontal stabilizers, but the horizontal stabilizers themselves look pretty good. I do see some slight texturing maybe on the paint, but nothing too big. I also see that on the left horizontal stabilizer, the elevator recessed panel lines are a little bit more filled in than on the right side, but they're not completely filled in, so that really isn't terrible. Here's the underside. Looks like the seam with the fuselage for the horizontal stabilizer is a little bit rough. I can see where the parts join together. It is on the underside, so it's not as easy to see, but still something worthy of mentioning. While we're back here, let's discuss the APU. The APU looks pretty nice. I see that some of the silver paint did get chipped and some of the white paint from underneath is poking through, but it's not terrible. And of course, we have a very tiny antenna back here. Very sharp. Be careful when handling this thing so you don't poke your finger, but this looks pretty good as well. Moving on to the engines. The engines on this model look really nice. The pylons actually don't look too great. I can see that this pylon is almost detached completely. Wow. Okay, that's not very good to see. The gap between the wing and the pylon is quite large, and it doesn't appear to be broken, so that's good, but it isn't good to see a large gap like that. With respect to the engines themselves, the exhaust nozzle or hot section looks really nice. It's painted in two different shades of metallic silver, which looks excellent, and this is accurate to the 757. I should note that on other pieces of this model, I did see that the darker gray hot section part right here did have paint chips, but my piece thankfully doesn't. At least I haven't seen any. The fan blade detail is excellent. Well, the fan detail itself. There's even a spinner spiral in there, but the fans, I don't believe they spin. Yeah, no, they do not spin. They're glued in place, but the detail on them is pretty nice. Now, there is some printed detail on the undersides of these, which is pretty good. Whoa, look at that. Okay, the front section here looks to be detached. I did not see this before, hence my reaction. Let's see if I can fix it. Wow, okay, that isn't really nice to see, and neither is the camera not focusing, but here it appears as though that the plastic part, or this might be a plastic part, or whatever this was holding onto this thing, it wasn't cut correctly, and it wasn't attached correctly as a result. There's a large gap between the engine cowling itself and the front part of the engine here. I did not see that originally, but that is really not cool to see. Moving on to aerial details, this model features gemmed lights, antennae, and a singular sat dome. Here we are at the front section of the fuselage. We're at the top of the aircraft. There's a gemmed light right here, and this looks pretty good. Move down, there's the Delta title, and we're still towards the front. We have this antenna right here. The part attachment is a little bit rough. I do see a bit of a glue blob. Sorry about that. Glue blob right there, but nothing major. This is a small part, so I can let that slide. I do see some small staining on the antenna itself, though. Here is the sat dome. The sat dome looks pretty good. It's a plastic part. It's fit quite nicely with the fuselage, and it's got another piece of trash on there. And it's also dead center on the fuselage. Maybe slightly angles, but the angled is negligible, so that's nice to see. Now we are at the front bottom section of the aircraft, and interestingly enough, on this model, there is more aerial details on the bottom of the aircraft, which is rare from any airplane, and especially rare from Gemini, since sometimes they do miss antennas on the bottom of the aircraft. But here we have this antenna right here. It's off at a slight angle, but not by much, so it looks pretty decent still. We'll move down the fuselage to this other antenna. This looks pretty good as well. There's our giant Delta title, and there's unfortunately some paint chipping there, some staining. I do feel it's kind of textured. Can I get that? It doesn't look like I can get that off, so that is a defect in the paint. The Delta title, and right in the middle of the Delta title is this gemmed light right here, just like the one we saw at the top of the aircraft. And there's the Gemini Jets logo. There's another antenna right here. This looks pretty good. And then another large antenna right here. This looks pretty good as well. Do you think we're done with aerial details? No, there's still one more. This very small antenna at the aft section of the aircraft right here. And of course, there was the one that is right next to the APU. So lots of aerial details on this model, all of which look pretty good overall. So here is a view of the entire bottom side of the aircraft. There's a lot of detail down here as well, especially aircraft details and printed details, all of which look pretty nice. So Gemini did a good job with detailing. As mentioned previously, this model features parts for extended and retracted landing gear. The extended landing gears, at least the extended main landing gears, attached to the model through a system of magnets, and evidently on this one, a system of a friction joint too. So here is the part for the main gear. The main gear door is too big, and this definitely interferes with the pivot for this landing gear, because it pivots, but the wheels do kind of make contact with the door, and that kind of prevents the wheels from rolling and pivoting correctly. So that isn't too great. The gear strut itself is nicely detailed, so that's nice to see. And the attachment with the aircraft is a little bit rough, actually. It is kind of hard to get the part in place, but once it's in place, it stays there nice and firm. So that was the one for that's the left side of the aircraft. This is the one on the right side of the aircraft. I can see some paint chipping right here. Paint application didn't appear to be too good on these landing gear parts, so that's not too nice to see. But as you can see, I do struggle when trying to pivot the landing gear. So there's that. Now let me get this one out. As for the nose gear is quite nice. It is angled slightly backwards when it is mounted on the aircraft, which is accurate to the 757. This one is joined to the aircraft through a system of foam cushions here, and the fit is decent. It does the job. The nose gear itself does pivot within a limited range, which is nice. The wheels are made out of rubber and they roll, as do the main landing gears as well, just they don't roll as smoothly due to the large door issue that I pointed out earlier. And yeah, the nose gear looks pretty decent too. So here are the empty gear bays. You can kind of see the magnets in the main gear bays, and then the nose gear bay is just an empty void. I will now show you the parts for the retracted landing gear covers. Now, let me make sure I attach these right before I start talking about them, and that's just great. So all of these are attached through a friction-based attachment, and evidently putting the nose gear one in is going to be kind of hard. Just kidding. Whoa, okay, the fit is pretty nice with the nose gear one. It's pretty snug with the fuselage, which is excellent to see. Now the main gear ones, they go in nice and easy like that, and bingo. Wow, the retracted landing gear covers for this model look excellent. They fit snugly with their parts of the aircraft, which looks absolutely excellent. Now let's do the fall test. Will they fall out? No! Alright, yeah, it looks like the main gear covers don't like their spots, so I guess you have to give them a bit of an extra push to keep them in there, and if that doesn't work, then get out the old sticky tack, because they don't want to stay in. Well, one of them doesn't want to stay in. Let's give this thing our signature steering contest. The engine clearance looks decent. The gear balance, I can't tell if it's gear balance or if it's wing asymmetry, but that definitely needs work. The landing gears themselves are off at an angle. Geez, that isn't good to see at all. Oh, that might have been my fault. It's because they pivot, sometimes they get off at an angle, but yeah, that's not... Oh, the gear balance is a little bit better now, but still. The wing flex is acceptable, but it does look slightly asymmetrical. The cockpit window printing is definitely slanted. That's not good to see. The horizontal stabilizer wing flex looks good. Main wing flex looks good. I already said that. The vertical stabilizer looks to be perfectly straight up, so that is good to see. Now, something that you can't really see with the camera right now is that there is some texturing in the paint on the radome. This is the best view I can give you to explain what I'm talking about, but you can see there is some paint texturing here on the tip of the nose. It's not terrible, but it was defined enough for me to notice it. This is the included metal display stand. It is supposed to be an imitation of wood, but it's metal. This stand features a foam cushion at the top of it to prevent damage to the finish on the model if you're putting it on the stand. Now, let me try and put the model on the stand, because the fit between the stand and the model is very tight. You kind of got to give it a little wiggle and then it stays. Once it's on there, the fit, or the stand's ability to hold the model really isn't great. You do see that the model kind of shakes if I shake it, so over time this may lose integrity and eventually fall over, which that wouldn't be optimal for anyone. So the stand, it's decent, it could be better, the fit could be improved, but maybe don't risk putting it on a stand, or you might want to get an aftermarket stand. This concludes my review. It is now time for my opinion and recommendation. I think this model is decent. It does suffer from quality control as per usual with Gemini models. What really surprised me though is the detached engine front section on the right engine that we saw earlier. That I didn't see when I was inspecting this model, and it definitely came out of left field. So yeah, that wasn't really pleasant to see. On top of the fact that some of the printing isn't perfect, the cockpit window printing was definitely slanted. That wasn't cool to see. And I did see a number of stains and paint chips on this thing as well. I'm not sure if I pointed them out. So quality definitely suffered. Regardless of that though, the model is really nicely detailed. The mold is pretty good actually, and I think it's a good looking airplane. So I do recommend this model. Just be cautious with quality, because with Gemini models these days, quality is always a hit or miss. Either you get decent quality or it goes down the drain. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like this video, drop a comment, let me know your thoughts, and ask any questions if you'd like to. And subscribe so you never miss any new aviation videos from this channel. That's all for today. Happy building, happy collecting, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. And there go the cicadas again. Jeez. Thanks for joining us today, cicadas.